For as long as we've been taught how the world works, we've been told a comforting story. That nations rise and fall because of elections, presidents, kings, or parliaments. That history bends around bold personalities with iron wills and silver tongues. But what if that story is only the stage play? What if the real script of global power, every rise, every collapse, every so-called unpredictable crisis, has been written somewhere else? Not in speeches, not in treaties, but in a ledger. A ledger most people have never seen. A ledger that has decided wars before they began, toppled empires long before their people revolted, and even today silently determines which nations get to prosper and which ones quietly drown. This is the story of the hidden accounting system behind global power, the one that has existed for centuries, shape-shifting through every age, yet never truly disappearing. And once you understand it, world history stops looking random. It starts looking inevitable. Stay with me. Before we dive into its origins, you need to forget the modern idea of money as colorful paper or digits in a bank app. Because this ledger, this invisible architecture, started long before banks as we know them ever existed. It began in a world where kings minted coins, but merchants controlled the flow. Where wars were fought with swords, but won with credit. Where the most powerful cities had no armies at all, yet dictated terms to empires 10 times their size. You may recognize some of the names: Florence, Venice, Amsterdam, London. But the twist is this: their power wasn't military. It wasn't even political. It was mathematical. It came from the invention and later the domination of the ledger system that tracked debt, credit, promises, and obligations across borders. This system didn't just record transactions. It created leverage. It created dependency. And dependency creates control. We'll trace how this ledger emerged, how it became the backbone of global finance, how it repeatedly collapsed, and how each time leaders tried to fix it only to inadvertently create the next crisis. And finally, we'll connect this centuries-long story to today's world, where the same patterns are repeating, with numbers so large they barely feel real. Let's begin at the beginning. The earliest version of the global ledger wasn't a document. It was a promise, a merchant telling another merchant, across a sea or a kingdom, you'll be paid later. In medieval Europe, this was revolutionary. Physical gold was dangerous to move, prone to theft, and limited by geography. But a written promise? That could travel anywhere. The Italians perfected it first. Florentine banking families, like the Medici, developed double-entry bookkeeping, a system so powerful we still use it today. Debits and credits, assets and liabilities, money and money owed. This ledger allowed rich men to multiply influence without ever touching a coin. A king could borrow to fund a war. A pope could borrow to build a cathedral. A merchant could borrow to sail to lands no European had seen before. But here's the twist. The moment a king borrowed, he became owed. Because he owed. And the one who controls debt controls decisions. Power was no longer just about armies. It was about balance sheets. By the 1600s, the ledger had evolved into something bigger, a network. Amsterdam's bankers financed shipping companies that spanned oceans. Insurance contracts turned risk into profit. And the newly formed stock exchange allowed wealthy elites to place bets on the future bets that influenced real events. Then came London. After the Glorious Revolution of 1688, England needed money to stabilize its government and defend itself. So it borrowed from private financiers, creating the Bank of England. For the first time in history, a national government permanently tied itself to private credit markets. This was the birth of the modern bond market. This was the moment nations began to rise or fall, not by the might of their armies, but by the confidence of their creditors. When investors believed in a country, interest rates dropped. When they didn't, the nation suffocated. Empires suddenly lived or died by trust. And trust was just another line in a ledger. Every financial system promises stability, right up until the moment it breaks. The global ledger has collapsed many times. The tulip mania crash of 1637, the South Sea bubble of 1720, the Panic of 1873, the Great Depression, the 2008 financial crisis. But these weren't random disasters. Each collapse followed the same three-step pattern. Credit expands beyond reality. People borrow under the assumption tomorrow will always be bigger than today. The ledger disconnects from real value. Speculation becomes more profitable than production. Confidence snaps, and the entire structure falls like a controlled demolition. When the ledger breaks, nations panic. Politicians blame each other. People point fingers at the visible world. But the truth is, the damage always started in the numbers years earlier. We just didn't see the signs. When the hidden ledger collapses, consequences spill into the physical world. The Great Depression wasn't just a market crash. It reshaped political systems, toppled governments, and set the stage for World War II. The 1971 end of the gold standard wasn't just a monetary decision. It transferred the world's financial center of gravity from metal to trust in the US dollar. And the 2008 crisis didn't just bankrupt banks. It created a generation that distrusted institutions, paving the way for political polarization, populist movements, and the rise of decentralized finance. Financial shocks become historical turning points. Economic ledgers create social revolutions. The numbers decide the narratives. Here is the part almost nobody likes to admit. Every attempt to fix the ledger has eventually created new vulnerabilities. After the Great Depression, regulators created rules. Those rules were weakened in the 1980s. The weakening contributed to 2008. After 2008, central banks flooded the world with cheap money. Cheap money pushed investors into riskier assets. Risky assets inflated bubbles. And in 2025, the global debt figure crossed levels that economists once thought impossible. We keep trying to stabilize the system, with solutions that destabilize it further, because all fixes operate within the same ledger framework. We never rewrite the system. We only patch it, and the ledger always finds the cracks. Now here's where everything comes together. Today's world is eerily similar to past eras before major collapses. Global debt is over 3 times global GDP. 60% of countries face debt distress. Consumer credit is higher than any point in recorded history. Essential goods are increasingly financed by debt cars, homes, education, even groceries. But the most shocking pattern I send to the numbers. It is that people feel the instability before the data confirms it. Just like citizens of Rome felt decline before historians recorded it. Just like citizens of the 1920s felt fragility before the crash. People today feel squeezed, exhausted, uncertain. They can't always explain why, but the ledger can. Because the ledger is out of balance again. And history shows what happens next. Power has always been tied to credit. Political strength depends on who controls the flow of money, not just who wins elections. Every major global crisis starts in the ledger long before it appears in the world. Wars, revolutions, collapses, they all begin as financial imbalances. If you understand the ledger, history stops being surprising. The future becomes less chaotic because you can finally see the patterns. The hidden ledger isn't going away, but it is evolving fast. Digital currencies, algorithmic credit scoring, AI-driven trading, each of these is writing a new chapter. The question is not whether the ledger will shape the next century. It will. The real question is, will we shape it, or will we allow it to shape us? If you want more deep dives that decode the invisible forces steering our world, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and leave a comment with the next hidden system you want exposed. Your curiosity drives the next episode. Until then, watch the numbers. They tell the real story.